so.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm
Well,
gonna
we'll
just gonna
post pictures
completely,
of Bruce.
yeah.
Yeah, but he was very handsome. He was a good-looking white
Uh-huh.
guy.
Uh-huh.
Seemed to have his shit together. So,
Right.
yeah.
Still, God damn it.
I know, awful. It's infuriating.
Yep.
So they didn't press charges, and Annette says, quote, "So many times I wanted to drive by that house and throw a rock at the window because he did that and no one believed me.
Oh
I
my
was
God, I
mad."
want to throw like a goddamn
Bomb.
yeah. I'm
Yeah.
gonna falcon pluck his eyes out like poetic justice. Just train a falcon, swoop it in there to do horrible things to him.
Mm-hmm. Play Moody Blues on like blaring loud for the rest of his life. So she said, "So many times I wanted to drive by that house and throw a rock at the window because he did that and no one believed me. I was mad at myself too for putting myself in that dumb situation."
Oh, poor girl.
I know. Annette, you did really good, honey.
You did really good.
I'm so sorry. So 15 months later, on June 23rd, 1980, Karen Weeks Kozman, who lived down the street from Lindahl, was loading her children into the family van when a naked woman came running toward her, frantically asking for help.
Oh my God.
The woman was 25-year-old Aurora resident named Deborah Coliander. Earlier that day, Deborah was locking her bicycle outside the Northgate Shopping Center in Aurora when a stranger asked her to help him start his car. I mean,
he really was good at this. It's like, that's Ted Bundy stuff.
Yeah, yes. She refused at first, but agreed to help when the man asked if she would just step on the gas pedal while he worked on the engine.
Mm-hmm.
When she got in the car, the man pulled out a sharp object and held it to her neck and drove off with Deborah.
There's just something so unbelievably creepy about being abducted in broad daylight, too. It's like, that is just so brazen, so ballsy.
Yeah. She was taken to the man's house where he threatened her with a handgun. He raped her and took several nude photos of her. When he fell asleep, she ran until she reached the neighbor Karen, who lived about 5 houses away.
Good.
Yeah. Karen quickly brought Deborah inside, gave her some clothes, and wrote down Deborah's story, hoping to remember every little detail to tell the police.
Good. Also, God, brilliant women. I don't know how he had such a terrible picker to pick such brilliant women to attack, but thank God not thank God he did. You shouldn't be attacking any women, but good for you girls.
Yeah,
late
really
women,
strong
ladies.
Deborah described the man who attacked her as having, quote, amazing blue eyes. And Karen said, my daughters and I looked at each other and instantly knew it was Bruce.
Whoa.
When police arrived at Lindahl's residence, they found him naked and asleep. They also found a gun and nude photos of Deborah. Lindahl was arrested and charged in King County with deviant sexual conduct, rape, and aggravated kidnapping, and was released on bond. I couldn't find out how much bond or if he spent any time in jail, but it made it sound like he pretty much was released right away.
Wow.
2 weeks before Deborah was set to testify against Lindahl, she vanished. She was last seen leaving her job at Copley Hospital in October of 1980.
Oh
no. Karen, who helped Deborah after her attack, said once Deborah went missing, quote, Lindahl would walk his dog in the rain and just stand on the corner looking at my house, or he'd drive past the house and stop and watch my girls playing in the yard, sort of teasing or threatening me.
Oh no, that's so unbelievably creepy.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I was listening to something recently. It was a podcast recently, and they were talking about how horror isn't the act itself, it's the anticipation of the act. Like the act itself is actually a relief, which I thought was so, put it into so much perspective for me, why things are scary or not. And that is torture. That is so scary to never know if he's actually going to act on something.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, to be threatening her children is just like for,
and her,
like,
and her
of course
home.
She's going to be keeping herself protected.
Yeah.
So the judge eventually.
Falcon. She needs to get a falcon. That's what I just said. We all do, ladies. Look, I'm just found my calling. I'm going to start breeding protective falcons. And retaliatory falcons. So
Yes.
some will protect you from attack, some will help you retaliate post-attack. All will make you look goddamn cool. Like, really cool.
The judge eventually dismissed the case against Lindahl in March 1981 because Deborah was missing and could not testify.
That's such... I mean, I get it, but yeah, you would think that her going to the cops, finding the pictures of her, etc., would be enough.
Yes. Yeah. When I read another case that I was researching, they were in California. They changed laws where this was for domestic abuse, but where victims didn't have to testify to
good.
charge.
I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, so I think that hopefully, maybe now, if there's enough evidence, and then she goes missing, I just think that would, I don't know, add to the suspicion that this guy is really awful. But I guess you can't charge people suspicion.
I mean, it's the whole premise of the whole foundation of the judicial system, as far as I'm aware, but it's still bullshit.
Yeah. So in April 1982, Deborah's body was found in a shallow grave by a farmer in Oswego Township cornfield, 6 miles south of where Deborah was last seen. And I looked to see if there was any more information about that, if there was any, but I couldn't find anything about what happened to her, or if maybe she was so badly decomposed they couldn't find out. But again, when I was looking through the newspaper archives, I would find little blips, and they mentioned, we found this body and we identified her, but I couldn't find any follow-up into the case or reporting on it.
Also, why did they let him out on bond? He's very clearly committed a terrible crime.
Right. Yes.
It's it's not carjacking or something. I mean, not that carjacking is a cool crime, but
right.
Petty theft. Sure, let him out on bond. Obvious rape. I don't know why that's the first thing that came to my mind. You probably should keep somebody in if they jacked a car. So I'm assuming they had a gun or a weapon. They're probably a dangerous person. Petty theft is what I meant to say. Carjacking came out. If you clearly raped somebody or clearly murdered or attempted to murder somebody, please just hang on to them for a minute. They can wait a couple months if it's that clear. They can wait a couple months.
Seriously. So Deborah Colliander's sister, whose name is Susan Colliander, said that Lindahl tore her family apart and they never fully recovered. Quote,
no doubt.
Right. Quote, my mom became a zombie, she said. I want people to know what stomach and heart-wrenching feelings she had. My dad gave up hope.
Oh, God.
So jumping ahead a little further, on April 4th, 1981, 5 days after the charges against Lindahl were dropped, Lindahl's girlfriend, and I could not find any information on her. I don't blame her for wanting to stay away, but so Lindahl's girlfriend came home to her Naperville apartment at 1:45 a.m. Much to her horror, she discovered the bodies of two men who were later identified as Bruce Lindahl and a man named Charles Huber. There was blood everywhere, and they appeared to be dead. She called the police.
Both of them? Bruce also?
Yes.
What?
Yes. Yep.
Got a little taste of his own medicine?
So Charles Huber was an 18-year-old high school student, and he worked at the local Red Lobster Inn.
Oh, buddy.
And again, I could not find anything about him other than that. And I really wish that I had more information to honor him with.
Well, I mean, working at a Red Lobster in the 70s was sort of like a peak. But I'm kind of serious. It was when we were growing up, you went to Applebee's for prom and you got engaged at the Olive Garden. Nobody could afford Red Lobster. So I don't even know what you did there because it was so far out of my sphere. So
well, this could even be because they say Red Lobster Inn, and maybe that's what they called it back in the 70s, but maybe it was an extra fancy Red Lobster.
Well, I hope he had a good time with his tips before.
I hope so too.
Stupid Bruce got a hold of him.
Yeah. So according to an article in the Daily Herald, which was written by Murray Wilson, Robert Marshall, the Naperville chief of police, was one of the first officers at the scene. He remembers finding the two dead men near the sliding glass door. Lindahl was lying on top of Charles. Investigators initially thought that they had a double homicide on their hands and a killer on the loose. It was a very perplexing crime scene, Marshall said. But after conducting an autopsy, the coroner's report told them a different story. Marshall continued, quote, "We determined that through the autopsy that Lindahl had, in his rage of stabbing Mr. Huber, accidentally severed his own femoral artery and bled to death."
What? God. It's like if that could just be the way the world worked all the time, what a much better world this would be.
Yes, some instant karma.
You could, seriously. Yeah. Like eventually, if you can't control your homicidal tendencies, you're going to accidentally kill yourself. It's just like, there's a finite amount of rage that you can express onto another person before you're just going to accidentally kill yourself.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
So he bled to death and basically just fell down, like laid right on top of Mr. Huber. Is the quote. It's not actually the quote.
God, I mean, your femoral artery, it must have just happened so fast, too.
Well, it's like the big one.
Yeah, the biggest artery. Wow.
Yeah, so I'm sure it just happened within, a minute or two. I don't think it takes long at all.
No.
But unfortunately, Lindahl had managed to stab Charles 28 times with a 6-inch kitchen knife before Lindahl bled to death from his self-inflicted wound. And police were able to determine that Lindahl and Charles had met at a nearby bowling alley called the Galileans, but they never figured out exactly what it was that brought Charles to Lindahl's girlfriend's apartment that day or that night when he was killed.
I mean, good God even knows the guy was like such a master of luring people to his home. So
right. I mean, who knows? You want some marijuana, and the kid would be like, yeah, absolutely.
Drugs, Falcons, modeling.
No, car help.
Atari. No, it was the 70s. Pinball. Like, who knows?
Yep. So let's talk a little bit about who Bruce Lindahl was.
Other than an absolute piece of shit.
Yeah. Yep. Which is really all that matters. But Bruce Lindahl was born on January 29th, 1953 in St. Charles, Illinois, to Jerome and Arlene Lindahl. He was one of 4 brothers. He graduated from Downers Grove South High School in 1971. He attended college and graduated in the mid-1970s with a degree in electromechanics. The next few years, he worked as an electrician while continuing his studies at the Mid-Valley Vocational Center in Caneville. He later worked as a teacher at the school in the auto repair shop. Lindahl was described as a smooth talker with sharp blue eyes. He was known to various police departments for his multiple run-ins with law enforcement, but he had no felony convictions.
I just while we're talking about karmic things and instant karma that should happen to murderers and rapists, I think they should also have to have a face that matches their intentions. You know what I mean? You shouldn't get to be hot and charming.
No.
I know that's generally how it works, but you should just have to be crazy looking.
Yeah, it'll make things a lot easier.
Seriously.
Yeah. You just come out looking like a terrible green monster.
Yeah. Terrible green monster. It's a great indication of someone to steer clear of.
That's right. So former Naperville Police Chief James Teal, which we just keep knocking it out of the park with these names.
It's a pretty good one.
Described him
Lance Hamner, but he'll do.
Jimmy J.J. Jones.
Jimmy J.J. Jones. I forgot it, so I didn't bring it up because I didn't want to embarrass myself.
Never forget.